Well, realizing that most of you probably don't know Ralph Cusack and never had the opportunity to see him race, I thought that perhaps the best way for me to describe to you the type of racer he was to compare him to some familiar drivers with similar styles. Several immediately came to mind. The first, David Pearson, certainly one of the smartest drivers I think we've ever seen. Well, like Pearson, Ralph's approach was patient and calculating and marked by an uncanny ability to capitalize on other drivers' mistakes. The second, Terry Labonte, the Iceman. And if there was ever a nickname that fits Ralph Cusack, it's the Iceman. Junior Johnson once commented about Labonte, he's deceiving. You don't think he's doing much, but make a mistake and he's got your spot. Well, listen to this quote from Bob Libby in a Dick Berggren article back in '78. Ralph Cusack is the kind of guy you just can't slip around. If you make any mistake, anything at all, he's got your spot. That certainly sounds a lot like Johnson's description of Labonte, doesn't it? The third driver who came to mind was Richard Petty. And just as Petty holds the majority of records in NASCAR, and in fact his name is intertwined with NASCAR, well, in the state of Maine, the name Cusack and racing are certainly intertwined. And Ralph undoubtedly holds many of the same records. For example, the most championships with 12, and the most features with some 200. Well, Ralph first took to the track at the fairgrounds in Lewiston, Maine in 1949 at age 16. In 1950, he started at Beech Ridge, and success came quickly. He was runner-up in 1952 and earned championships in 53, 58, and 59. These were followed by 4 more championships by the mid-60s. The 63 season was highlighted by 12 features in a row. And about 3/4 of the way through the season, Ralph was so dominant that then track owner J.B. McConnell offered a $100 bonus to anyone who could beat Cusack. By season's end, no one collected the bonus. Ralph wrapped up the 63 season with a runner-up finish in a New England championship race at Oxford Plains against the likes of Lee Allard, Gene Burgeon, Fats Caruso, Don McLaren, Ernie Gahan, and the list just goes on and on. The 64 season was remarkable with 21 feature wins. The newspaper called him the Mickey Mantle of Beech Ridge, saying Cusack is an all-American type with a powerful measure of high-speed driving skill and timing talent. During the 65 season, Ralph captured 9 feature wins at Beech Ridge and competed in a variety of events against many of the best modified and sportsman competitors at the time. One such event was a 300-lap NASCAR-sanctioned national championship held at Oxford Plains. This history maker read like a who's who of great racers at the time. The event was won by Wild Bill Slater, followed by Johnny Thompson and Eddie Flemke. Rennie Charland settled for 4th. Ralph Cusack was 5th in his Beech Ridge dirt car until forced to pit for gas with 20 laps to go. He was the top main finisher in 8th. Other nationally known drivers in the event included Red Farmer, who finished 7th, and Bobby Allison, who settled for 19th. The 50s and 60s were the years when Ralph Cusack and the Blue Deuce were a famous combination. For most of those years, Ralph drove for Mike D'Amico Sr. and later Mike Jr. During those years, Ralph and Hall of Famer Ernie Gahan developed a strong and lasting friendship, and I wish I had time for some of the many stories Ernie related to me. If you have an opportunity, ask one of them about the time they hauled a race car to Daytona and then had to take the wheels off the tow truck to run on the race car. Well, partway through the 67 season, Ralph retired. Then after a 5-year layoff, he returned to the track, and after winning 2 features in a row, the Portland newspaper ran an article entitled Ridge's Legendary Cusack Returns. From 1974 through 78, Ralph drove the Dave and Sandy Kudemarch Supermodified to 4 straight championships in the 5 years that Beech Ridge ran Supers. During these years, he also competed very successfully in the late model division. The 75 season was highlighted by 9 wins and 8 seconds in the Supermodifieds. Now, during this time, Dick Berggren was a weekly competitor in the supermodified division at Beech Ridge and was quite a shoe himself. In 1977, Dick decided to make a concerted effort to win the track championship. He detailed this attempt in a 3-part article entitled Championship, featured in Stock Car Racing magazine. Well, Dick didn't win the championship, although he did win 7 features. Ralph Cusack won it, and here are a couple of Dick's remarks written about Ralph in that article. In sizing up the competition, Dick writes, "Then there was Ralph Cusack. He had won the title both years before, and we worried considerably about him this year. In fact, if Cusack had a new light chassis as rumored, we might as well settle for something other than first in points, because Cusack was, I thought, the best driver at the track and one of the most reliable, strong, capable men I've ever raced against." Well, by the way, Cusack didn't run the new light chassis, but won the title just the same. In '79, Ralph was runner-up in the modified division and won the championship in 1980. He wrapped up that season, which was his last, with a triple header. He won the modified main and with it the championship and captured the most popular driver award. What an appropriate finish for a racer whose career had been nothing short of phenomenal in the state of Maine. In 1981, Ralph purchased Beech Ridge and transitioned from driver to owner-promoter. By applying the extensive experience he had gained as a driver, along with having the benefit of having earned the respect of competitors and fans alike, he set out with the same focus and persistence that had made him a championship driver. The proof of the success in this area is evident to anyone who visits Beech Ridge Motor Speedway. Almost to a person, new visitors are impressed with the high degree of organization and the smooth operation that characterizes the Speedway. Well, after retiring as a driver upon purchasing the track, Ralph just couldn't stay out of the driver's seat. By the mid-'80s, he got the idea of setting up a limited sportsman with a passenger seat so he could offer some adventurous race fan a ride in the limited main each week, starting from the tail end of the lineup. This obviously was a hit with fans, and it even attracted a local radio personality to take the ride. Ralph's novel co-pilot project proved to be a huge success until one night on the backstretch when he had what was perhaps the worst accident of his career. Fortunately, his passenger, who by the way happened to be a young woman, was unhurt, but Ralph and the car suffered injuries and damage sufficient to bring an end to this venture. Although his racing career had ended, Ralph continued promoting the Speedway with a high degree of success, as evidenced by his earning 6 awards in a span of 7 years for either outstanding achievement or excellence in administration. Now, not only has Ralph earned virtually every special award extended to a racer in Maine, but he's also been an outstanding role model for young racers both on and off the track. I'm pleased that many of Ralph's family and close friends are here to share this special time, including his lovely wife Jane and son Andy, who now owns the Speedway. And at this time, it's a great pleasure for me to ask Ralph Cusack to come forward as only the second racer from the state of Maine to be inducted into the New England Antique Racers Hall of Fame. Ralph? Congratulations.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. I've worked with Bruce. Soon after I bought the track, I worked with Bruce for a long time when he was the president for the Maine Racing Association. He has been and still is the track announcer for many years, and I still enjoy his involvement today. Very good. Thank you, Bruce. The good news is I probably won't take too long up here. For one thing, I don't have a long list of sponsors to thank. Unlike the Winston Cup Victory Lane speech, where they got to go through all that and put on the $10,000 sunglasses and that kind of thing, we never had any sponsors for 30 years we raced, so unfortunately don't have anybody to thank. Well, just a bit there. Back when I started racing, of course, it was strictly a hobby. That was way before the Daytona and the Talladegas and the Winston Cup and the Mega Buck sponsors. So when you went into racing, you just knew, you was going in and doing it just as a hobby with no money. So when we went into it, we never planned to make any money, and that plan worked out perfect. We never did. So, but anyway, just like a lot of the other races here, that you reach a time in life. I've raced like 30 years, and then you begin to wonder, should I hang it up or should I keep going? And it's a tough decision, but you do have to do it at some time. So the problem I had was just, I've been in racing all my life, and all the friends and people I'd made. If you just walk away, you kind of just don't see them again very often. And after giving it more thought, I got to thinking that really where the big money is in racing is when you own a racetrack. And I think the Roots and all those people understand that. So anyway, to get the best of both worlds, I decided if I bought the racetrack, I'd be still involved with all my friends and make a lot of money. And the first part worked out good. I stayed in touch with the friends, and the other half was up and down. I think it was the second year when I owned the Speedway. We had, I think it was 6 rainouts in a row, even before we got racing. This was from day one. So when you have a year like that, and you look at the checkbook in the fall, it made you think you was back racing again, because basically it was empty. But anyway, aside from that, you always enjoyed it, whether you made money or didn't. And like any business, we had our peaks and valleys and good times and bad. But anyway, it was always enjoyable, and, don't regret a minute of it. And I guess the best part is, of all the friends, you make, and some of them are here tonight. Ernie Gahan, him and I used to race a lot together. Bob Libby and Jimmy Brown, even Dick Bergman, had a lot of good races in the super modifieds. I'd also like to kind of thank Dick. Of anyone I can think of, he's probably done more for racing, through his works and his magazine and all his dedication. He's truly, truly a great guy. Just to mention, we always talk about car owners, and I think most of the drivers here have been up and down that cycle before, that, you own your own car, and then you go drive for somebody else, and, that goes back and forth. But I ended up before I quit racing there, probably 5, 6, 7 years, that I come across Dave and Sandy Kudamash and their 2 daughters. They were just a racing family, these people just live for racing. And Dave always had top-notch equipment. We won some championships, won a lot of races, but he was just a great guy. Even if I screwed up, he never said nothing. Thought I still did good. But anyway, that's the type of people. I really appreciate them, and we had a lot of good times, on and off the track together. I also got to kind of thank my wife. She spent 50 years watching me race and doing other things, and probably times she'd rather been doing other things. But nevertheless, she hung around with me for 48 years. But the best thing was, when I bought the track, I had to give her a promotion, and rather than to sit in the grandstand and freeze every Saturday night, she's been at a concession stand ever since, and, it's usually 110 degrees in there, so at least she's warm. And, may not like it, but she's there. But I also got to thank Near, Al Finney and all the people. This is no doubt probably the highlights of my life. This banquet is just, plain beautiful, and all the nice people here. So, well, let's just go to it and have a good time, and thank you very much.